So, there's so much to talk about, guys. Breaking news tonight that came through just before the show, actually, about a half an hour to an hour ago. Breaking news that Mark Boucher will be stepping down as Proteas coach after the T20 World Cup. Now, we'll be discussing that on the show as well as what is the future for our test batters, because now we're going to have to look at this circumstances completely different to how we looked at it, that I would have looked at it if Boucher was still the coach. So we're going to discuss that on today's show. We're going to discuss everything on today's show, try to get through all the topics that is happening right through. But before we get going, before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for updates, regular updates. Click that notification bell for all future videos as well, so that you can get notified when we go live, when we upload videos, when we go live, because sometimes we will do videos as well in between where we just upload it as separate pieces of content. So please go ahead and press the subscribe button so that you know what is going on over there. What I also need you guys to do is to download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is on the screen as well as in the description. And this is the latest issue with Dean Alga on the front cover. So go ahead and find that and download it. And all issues are free as well. Another thing that I need you guys to do, South Africa is in a very brittle state currently, and we are trying to change that. We are trying to bring people together, bring fans together. Please form part of our Patreons and get involved. Help us grow and promote South African cricket by becoming a patron today. Link is on the screen as well as in the description. And for all your updates, your regular updates, breaking news stories, etc., cricketfanaticsmag.com for all your updates. So let's get straight into today's video. I'm looking forward to discussing this one. Let's get into it. A very good evening. Welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your daily show. I'm your host, Khalid. This is my co-host, Aditya. Today, we're going to drop bombshells on you, guys. We're going to drop bombshells on you because the daily show is rocked by something massive. Mark Boucher stepping down as coach. I'm going to read out the press release. Aditya, we're going to have a lot to talk about today. A hell of a lot to talk about today. I started off by obviously putting together this topic for today, and I thought, it's going to be a nice topic to speak about, thinking about the future, looking ahead at this Australia series, etc. And then this bombshell was dropped on us. And this is what was said. So just to give you guys an indication, I just want to make sure that you guys do know everything that took place. Cricket South Africa announces that South Africa men's head coach Mr. Mark Boucher, okay, now it is set to leave. I've never seen that before. Head coach Mr. Mark Boucher is set to leave his role after the conclusion of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Australia. Mr. Boucher has decided to resign in order to pursue other opportunities in line with his future career and personal objectives. While Cricket South Africa greatly regrets that Mark Boucher is unable to see out the term of his contract, it respects his decision and wishes him all the best in the future endeavors. So that's very important to note, that CSA is saying that Mark Boucher is stepping down for his own future, not the other way around of them letting him go. Mr. Boucher has held the position since December 2019 and led the Proteas to 11 test wins, including a memorable 2-1 series win against India at home in January this year. The Proteas are also currently number 2 on the ICC World Test Championship table. In the limited overs arena, Mr. Boucher has helped South Africa claim 12 one-day international wins, but how many losses? And 23 T20 international victories, the most recent being a historic 2-1 series triumph against England. His last series at the helm will be the White Ball Tour of India. So from 28 September 11 October, before heading to the T20 World Cup in Australia, where South Africa are grouped alongside Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. The tournament will run from 16 October to 30 November. CSI Chief Executive Officer Letsi Moseke commented, We would like to thank Mark for the time and effort he has invested in South African cricket as a head coach over the past 3 years. He has helped navigate us through some rough waters following the departures of so many senior players through the retirement, and also helped by lay some strong foundations for the next generation of Proteas. I don't agree with that, by the way. We are extremely grateful to him for the work he has done and would like to wish him well with the next chapter of his career. Director of Cricket Enoch Nkwe added, "We are deeply saddened by Mark's decision to leave us, but we also understand and respect his wishes. He's a Proteas legend and has done so much for the game in our country, both on and off the field, over the last 3 years, which we highly appreciate. He has built a sound platform for South Africa to flourish in all three formats, and I'm sure we will see the results of that in the T20 World Cup next month. He has a settled squad already, one that is growing in confidence, and we look forward to watching them in their important series in India before they head to Australia." Okay, so Ongama's going to join us as well. He's with us too. Let's discuss this. Big news, big news, big news. Please subscribe, everybody, as well. Click that notification bell if you haven't yet. Now, I do see a lot of people giving a lot of praise to what Mark Boucher has done, and I want to say first and foremost, yes, thank you for the tenure that he has given South Africa and to the fans. Kind of brought a little bit of stability back to us, gave us belief that we can, of course, go on to do things. But like I said again, and I'm going to say it here again, it started with England, ended with England. Two terrible tours against England. I mean, tours, but two terrible series against England. The first tour, and what I feel about Mark Boucher's tenure so far is I haven't necessarily seen an improvement in our test arena necessarily. I haven't necessarily seen us play bat better. Like when he came into the role in England, he spoke a lot about our batting and how he wants to get us to be more solid with the bat. Because the bowlers were already there. We were winning test matches like we winning test matches back then. So when we were winning test matches, then we were winning with our bowlers. And I thought that Mark Boucher coming in will maybe give us a little bit more solidity with the batting department. But I have actually seen our batting department decrease in value over since this time at the helm. In the T20 arena, however, I have to give him some props. I think we've developed very nicely. He's given some nice youngsters opportunities. Yes, they forced their way into the team by performing, but he needs to get some credit for the way we've developed in the T20 arena, because I think we're a lot better in T20 cricket than we ever have been before. I don't think we were very strong in T20 cricket in the past, and I think we're a lot more versatile and a lot more compact than we ever have been in T20 cricket. So I'm happy with the work there. So let's see what happens in the T20 World Cup. In ODI cricket, however, we've declined tremendously. We've decreased. We've decreased our ability. Our ability in the ODI arena has decreased a lot. We might be even playing in qualifiers to get into the 2023 World Cup, but now that's not Boucher's problem, is it? We're going to have a new coach for the T20 2023 World Cup. We're going to have a new coach for Australia. So this is, for me, they need to think about who they're going to bring in next and start planning, because they got 3 months to plan for that series in Australia. That basically will pick their spot as at the top of that table in the WTC's final. Or probably it will put us on the right course to getting there. First and foremost, let's get everybody's views on what you guys thought of this news coming. Let's start with you, Aditya, and then we can move to Ngama. What is your initial thoughts about Mark Boucher stepping down?
Honestly, it came out of nowhere because I didn't expect it. I did think that, after everything that had happened with the Boucher and most recently the SJN and, the investigation in that period, now is probably that time where Boucher can focus just on the cricket as opposed to any off the field drama that he'd probably been dealing with for I think 95% of his coaching tenure. So I have to say that I'm surprised by the timing, because if there was ever a time where he could just focus on the cricket, it's now. And keeping the results of the Test series aside, um, there's a T20 World Cup coming up, and there's so much white ball cricket to be played, and there is South Africa can certainly point to some progress made in T20 cricket, as you said, and obviously there was a bit of a hiccup there with the Bangladesh series in ODI cricket, but I felt like, you know, they were moving in the right direction there, and after a long time, when the wins were starting to come, this was the time for Boucher and team to sort of notch up a few more, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm convinced about the timing here, because now you've got another coach who will be selected. We don't know when he's going to be appointed, and you have an ODI World Cup in India in a year's time, and a rather unsettled ODI unit. So I'm not sure that's ideal for the team, but
Mm.
it is what it is. There are rumors that Baj has been approached for my Cape Town, so
My Cape Town, yeah.
he's
These rumors I
considering
heard.
that. Mm.
And I think also some IPL gigs too, perhaps.
I mean,
So
get it,
yeah,
get it.
so yeah, so that's his focus now. I mean, the money and everything. But once again, we in the same situation that we're going to put ourselves in. I swear by life, I'm gonna be so upset if we sit here and we don't plan the next 5 years. We need a 5 year plan now, because this without Boucher now, without the coach, with a fresh new test team that nobody's really solidified their spots there, besides the bowlers. And then you're sitting with a one day team that's also in transition, and you're sitting with a T20 team that is quite solid, I feel. So it's the perfect time for South Africa to now press the reset button and do things the right way, do the right homework when it comes to the new coach. It needs to be someone that can work with youngsters and understand younger players, I think, in my opinion. Someone that has experience, someone that has worked in the past with players and built them through and brought them through the transitional phases. I would like someone like that can maybe rebuild our system again, rebuild the pipeline, and look for aspects within players that they understand the qualities of those players, that they can be able to move into Test cricket a lot smoother. I mean, I wouldn't mind even on maybe someone that can maybe even reset the style and the way we approach the game of cricket in the Test arena too. Maybe someone that's more a little bit more aggressive, maybe an Australian coach, maybe, or someone that has coached Australia in the past would be great in my opinion. Maybe it might be the right tough love that South Africa needs to reshape the way we go forward. But Ungama, you obviously shocked too about this particular news coming here. How are you feeling currently about that situation?
Yeah, hey guys. There's just never a dull day in South African cricket, eh?
Never
Jeez.
ever.
Yeah. Ever since I've come on the media space 2018, 2019, it's just been bombs and shit, you know. But it's understandable, now that I've had a little bit of time to think about it, because Mark has had a very tough time, man, and everyone has that breaking point, and I feel like maybe he did reach that point, and Mark is one of the toughest people out there, so it's understandable, but I'm questioning the timing of it, because we need him now, more than we needed him when he came on. So I'm very I'm shocked. I'm super shocked, man. I don't know what else
That's
to say.
perfectly put. That was perfectly put, actually. We need him more now, actually, than we needed him when he came on. That's 100% true. And I remember that. I go back to that first press conference. The first thing I asked, and people, some may have laughed at me, but the first thing I asked was, what is the plan? How are we going to move forward? We're losing all of this experience, guys. Who are we going to replace them with? Are we going to ease people in? Are we going to see players maybe get the opportunity over 2 years? Are we going to plan for them? My aim is always thinking about the future and planning for the future. So it's extremely tough. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ashwell Prince, for example's name will be floating around for this position. I wouldn't be surprised for that. Um, I do like the way he thinks about youngsters and young players. But I see some people calling for Gary Kirsten in the chat. Let me go and ask you guys to put your coaches. Would you like to see be the next coach of the Proteas? Put it in the comments below. If you've already said it, say it again so that I can get all the whole list of it and actually see. Maybe we can put the poll together and then maybe put it get it how can I say filtered down a little bit more. But others,
There are a number
what
of
I want to
people
see.
asking for Herschelle Gibbs, which is great.
I mean, Herschelle Gibbs would be a brilliant person to be in the staff. I would like him to be actually be part of the staff.
Yeah, I like that Gibbs addition as well, because I feel like there's been a lot of coaches that have good relationships with players, So if you have a good personal relationship with the player, it's very difficult for you to tell them the truth. So some of the things that Herschelle Gibbs has been saying on these shows as a pundit, it's facts. He's not afraid to say it. It's facts. You guys are not scoring hundreds, and it's not only happening at international cricket. You guys haven't been scoring 100 in domestic cricket. So I would love that. I would like it, you know, if Herschelle Gibbs would get a go, because we need someone who's going to be honest with these guys.
Mhm. And that's something that I spoke about. I said, I mean, we selecting players over here. I mean, I've been speaking to a player of air, and I'm not going to tell you guys who, but I'm trying to get him motivated and focused for Test cricket in the future. So I'm trying to give him maybe a little bit tips here and there, maybe for whatever I have to try and motivate him to get there, because he has everything that I think is needed to be a Test player in the future. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I think we need to do, but I think the main thing is to sort out that opening partnership at the top, and this probably bleeds into our topic as well. Now I'm looking at the live chat. Let's see, Aditya. And I want you to maybe look at them and then maybe pick someone that you maybe think. But we've got over here. We've got Jeffrey Toyana. Jai Wardener is also on the list over here. Someone says ABD with a laughing face. Gibbs brings the beer bottle. Lubabalo says himself. Justin Langer. Sean Pollock. Gibbs cannot coach his Lubabalo. Jason Glipsy. Gillespie, sorry, and Stephen Fleming. Um, Hashim Amala, I don't know about it as a head coach, a batting coach, a batting consultant, I can see. Sean Pollock, I don't know. Sean Pollock seems like such a nice guy. Will he be able to front us in the media every single day? When Ogama asks him difficult questions. Ricky Ponting. We see Bayless is here, Andy Flowers over here. Mickey Arthur is another person that someone says. Someone says Lance Klusner.
Sorry, can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Let's be realistic about who can't coach South Africa, because they already have existing contracts. Like Trevor Bayliss has signed on a new IPL contract. Andy Flower is also an IPL coach right now. Justin Langer is probably not going to coach an international team this quickly after he's finished with Australia. Ricky Ponting is also not accepting international coaching assignments because he's coaching an IPL team, and he's also director of cricket at the Hurricanes in Australia in the Big Bash. So the thing is, there are a lot of attractive names out there that we feel will be perfect for the job, but a lot of them are also they're committed to either franchise cricket or maybe multiple tournaments across the world. So Stephen Fleming as well, fantastic coach, and maybe pre 2008, they are right after he retired, he would have considered it, but now he's coaching the Joburg Super Kings and he's also coaching Chennai Super Kings. So a lot of the elite coaching that we think of now is probably not even available to coach international cricket.
If I can jump on there, Aditya, I liked what you just said, Aditya. This is the one thing that I've noticed, né? whoever comes on, it must be someone that look, for instance, when Mark Boucher was appointed, there was a lot of negativity that came his way, and people brought up not being qualified and so forth. But those things, they didn't really matter, So whoever comes on to coach, it must be someone that's gonna understand what South Africa is about, because I've been checking some of the reactions now that Mark Boucher is gonna step down. A lot of people are happy. Some people are happy, or at least a lot of the reactions that I've seen, it's people who are happy, So it goes to show that whoever it is that's gonna get appointed, it must be someone who's gonna understand and represent South Africa, not necessarily only a Black African coach, but it has to be someone that's gonna talk the same language as South Africa, I don't know if I'm
And
making
and
sense,
also what I
but
want. No, you make 100% sense. And I want to add a little bit more to that, actually, Ungama, because along with the things that you mentioned, which I agree with 100%, I think also there needs to be someone that has an understanding of that step up between test cricket and first class cricket, because that person is not only going to help players that are currently Proteas, but he's also going to help players come from domestic cricket into the test arena. They need to understand that transition. And I feel that someone like, and why I throw Ashwell Prince into the mix again is because he understands that step up, and not getting things easy. He struggled to do things and to get his way into the team. So he understands that struggle, and having to work that hard to try and um, find a way to score runs in difficult transitions and difficult transitions, etc. In South African cricket. So the only concern maybe for a guy like Ashwell Prince is trophies maybe that you can maybe hold against him. I feel he has the coaching experience from a license perspective. He has, I feel, the right mentality of the right winning mentality. He understands youngsters too, but so the similarly to Jeffrey Toyana too. Jeffrey Toyana was supposed to take over before Otis Gibson got the job. The man understands the generations of young talent. He gets that. He's worked with a lot of Proteas too within the Lions setups and the Titans setups. So he understands South African cricket. He might be the right person to take us into the next generation too, to get us into that transitional phase. If we were sitting here with ABs and Amlas and Fafs of the world in our team still, we might have been thinking of a very different coach to come in and step in. The reality is that no matter who we pick now is going to be inexperienced. So we need a person to be able to guide that inexperience and shape them into talents. Unfortunately, that's where we are, because there are no South African test batters currently sitting in domestic cricket waiting to play. Perhaps maybe you could say Tianus de Bruin, who played some matches for South Africa already. But other than that, there's not many that are sitting around there that are up for selection. So whoever comes in needs to be able to take these guys and turn them into test superstars. And we need to find the person that has the credentials and the mentality and the mindset to be able to do so.
and you know what I don't like with this whole Mark Boucher stepping down thing. It sends a wrong message, man. It makes us as South African friends and South African cricket community, it makes us look like we only accept people of color, you know in positions of power within cricket South Africa. It just sets like it sends a wrong message, man. Like, I don't like from this Mark Boucher stepping out thing. I don't see an Abby de Villiers having interest in coaching South Africa. I don't see a Jacques Callis type vibe, because all those guys are gonna have the mentality that we've seen it happen to Mark, so it's probably gonna happen to us. So I don't
Mm.
like the message that it sends out, because that's not what it happened. That's not what happened. The reason that there was a lot of negativity, it's because the reason there was a lot of negativity with Mark Boucher, it's because it was not a well thought move. It was not a well thought out move. You know, the people who were responsible for that, they didn't think thoroughly about what the rest of South Africa is going to think, because all of a sudden we are trying to rebuild, we are trying to bring back South African cricket to where it was, and then there's white people in charge, so it wasn't well thought. I just don't like the type of message it is sending out, because that's not who we are. We do need international experience in that Protea setup, in that management setup. We need your Khalid, we need whoever it is that we can get, because the fact of the matter is that even if we hire Wandile Guavo is the Lions coach in that Protea setup, he's gonna need someone who does have international experience, to tap into.
Next to him, yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree on Gama, 100%. And thank you, Lorenzo, for the super chat. He says Graham Ford will be a perfect appointment, experienced international coach. He's a good option as well. But I want to stress on what Ongama actually had to say there. That's very true, because like I said, the most important factor over here is to be able to turn these players that were coming through from and allowing them to be able to grow within the test arena, being patient enough for them to teach them and take them the right way. We don't have the luxury in South Africa right now to bank on people that have already seen. We are losing our last bit of experience in Dean Alga and Temba Bavuma very soon too. So we need to try and milk that as best as possible by finding the right players that can lead the next generation. I don't think there's enough time for 33-year-olds and for 34-year-olds to learn enough about Test cricket to pass it on to the next generation. That's my concern, because I feel that the older players that are getting opportunities Okay, are we back? I think the internet cut. Okay, cool. Sorry. Okay, so that's something that we're going to need. Going for. I lost my train of thought now, guys, because the whole thing. What did I say? Where did I leave? Literally for fucking job.
You're talking about 33-year-olds not having.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
33-year-olds not having enough time to be able to learn what they need to do because the point of experience, in my opinion, also is to teach the next generation. Isn't that also very important? I mean, the way South Africa system is currently, we need to get that experience. Right now, we're going to need to get that experience in the changing room. You see, when Boucher took over, I was in a different mindset then, because I was like, but we have some experienced guys here. We need him to help develop the next generation of stars. We went the opposite way. So I hope they don't go the opposite way now, when we need someone that is going to do that. That they don't. That now we need a person with experience. I hope that I don't go with someone that doesn't have experience. It could work. I mean, you could see it as the inexperienced coach that hasn't coached at test arena, only coached domestically, growing with the team. That could also happen. But we also need to decide who the coach is going to be for all formats. If we're going to have one coach for all formats, how are we going to do it going forward? Are we going to have different coaches? That possibly could be also an option that they're going to be exploring. So let's see where that goes.
Because a number of people in the chat have been recommending Gary Kirsten to be the next head coach. Gary Kirsten is totally clear that he's not going to coach 3 formats. He's unlikely to coach only one, which is the red ball format. So again, that's out of the equation. But you're right, and I think where I'd probably add on to that is that if you talk about this test match and you look at the application of the batters in this test match, not even mentioning the second test match here, just this particular test match, it tells you that there's a long way to go, because you can see why there haven't been enough hundreds. You can see why there isn't as much batting discipline going around the team, and we'll probably come to that a little bit later in the chat. But
yeah,
that's where you feel like, if there's so much emphasis being put on expanding the range of players with different shots and things like that, then where was that in a series decider that was cut short by a couple of days, and you're in a position where where you barely have any test matches for the next 5 years.
Hmm.
So you have a point to prove there, and unfortunately, it went south for South
Yeah.
Africa in this one.
What I want them to do as well is
Yeah.
I want them to also think to the future with regards to the coaches. Pick an experienced guy, get a less experienced guy as assistant, and maybe get an experienced team and let that assistant learn from the point of an assistant coach, in my opinion, is not only to assist, it's also to maybe think about taking over from the next guy. I hope that that is also maybe in their minds. And not always does it work like that, because sometimes the assistant coach gets a bigger job offer before that time arrives. But I would like to see that assistant coach learning and prepping himself to take over, because then you have a clear plan. Then you can plan the next 10 years, not only the next 5 or next 3 years. You can then think even further ahead on how we're going to maintain a strategy, a style, and all of those type of things. Unkama, sorry, you wanted to say something?
No, I agree with what you just said right now. Kind of like what happened with the Springboks with Jacques and I like that. I like that with the assistant role. But what I was gonna say is that another trait that I'm looking for when it comes to the coach that we are going to appoint, it's someone who's open-minded. Just because you played Test cricket in the 90s, in the 2000s, and you did not have a mental coach, but you as a team you were able to succeed, that does not mean that you should expect the new guys not to have a mental coach. So the one thing that I'm looking for when it comes to the new coach, I'm looking for someone who's open-minded to new ideas.
Hmm.
You know, not someone who's gonna say it's either my way or the highway. I think that's why Justin Langer got fired in Cricket Australia. It's because players couldn't communicate with him. So that's what I'm looking for when it comes to the new coach. Someone who's gonna be reachable. Not someone who's gonna be
Hmm.
grumpy and do things his own way and not allow a collaborative approach. So that's the one thing that I'm looking for when it comes to this team.
Yeah. I love listening. I love listening to what you have to say there, Unkama. Excellent. And Aditya was obviously looking towards that. That makes sense to what Unkama is saying. But on top of that as well, the staff that this coach has, whoever the staff is going to be so important. I feel we need to get a proper batting coach in that understands Test cricket. We need to get a bowling coach. I'm fine with. Our bowlers are exceptional. I do think that we maybe need to get perhaps maybe get a wicketkeeper coach in as well that does fielding and wicket keeping, because I think now with Calvarena now as the younger guy, he's already very young. There's going to be another younger protege that maybe will be behind him that needs some coaching as well. So we're going to need to. We got inexperience in the wicket keeping department, so perhaps that would be a good idea to get a wicket keeping fielding coach in as well. But the mental coach aspect of the game, the mental side of the game, has been something that we've been crying for generations. I'm not going to even say for years, because we've had this problem with this choke, with the C word hanging over our head for for so long. We've got this excellent program actually on cricketfanaticsmag.com by My Grow that teaches you about choking and how an Australian farmer can teach you our boys about choking. So go look at on our articles as well for that advert. It will be there somewhere. Go click on that. It gives you some excellent insight into the mental side of things for with the game, because being forward thinking also is very important. We can see that within a team like Manchester United, for example, and I know I always go fall back to that. But when Ralph Ragnick came into the position, he was shocked that there was no mental coach for these players. Why is there no sports psychologist involved? Um, those guys are also extremely important, because if your team is struggling to find their best abilities on a regular basis and find their level on a regular basis, something that can help that is a mental coach to try and get you to get into a bubble. I mean, we know that Jacques Callis, it's very well documented that Jacques Callis went away for a mental coach that taught him the bubble technique, taught him how to put himself in a bubble and ignore the outside noise. Those things are very important for batters, especially in Test cricket when you're spending hours in the middle. You need to concentrate. So I don't want us to now get a coach like what England did that wants to now try and play an attacking brand of cricket and all of this nonsense that's going to try and change that, because we don't have the basics, guys. I think the thing that England has is they do have the basics. They do have a core group of experienced players over there in that team. So it's easier to transition into something new when you do have a solid base that can be adaptable. But then on the flip side, having a clean slate to work with is also good. But I don't want them to sit down there and pick a style and then stick to the style and be stubborn about it. I want adaptability. I want us to be able to and have a plan, knowing who our 3, 4, 5 players in line are for each position. We need to sort out that opening partnership as a base for the Test arena. We need to make sure that we can have that our other players, that we're getting the best out of the current batters that we have available, while also learning about the conditions, which is something that they can't learn in South Africa. So much as well. A good analyst as well is important. We do have one currently. We've never actually spoken to him, so I would actually like to have an opportunity to speak to our current statistician and see what he's picked up in this in the last test.
One thing that South Africa probably need to focus on more, and this is an article that I'd written a while ago in the magazine, is that they really do need to get better at thinking on the go, at improvising while they're on the field, because you can plan as much as you like off the field. The scenario is going to change while you're on it. And I'll give you two specific examples of where that could have been the case. When Dean Elgar in the second innings, I think he scored 36 or something like that. You look at how Dean Elgar got out, right? Stuart Broad came around the wicket, and I'm not even talking about whether he reviewed that ball or not. Stuart Broad's plan was to come around the wicket and bowl that ball that goes across and wraps him on the pad, LPW. That was the trick, and it was quite obvious because he had done that
3 in a row.
Yes, that is that's my point, right? That you can tell what he wants to do, because if you look historically at DRS technology, a left-hander who's facing a bowler coming around the wicket typically doesn't get an LBW decision out because the ball is normally pitching outside the off stump, right? So you feel like you're not going to get that LBW, but the fact of the matter is that was Stuart Broad's plan, and he had you wrapped on the pads multiple times before that third delivery actually got you out. And unfortunately, Elgar didn't try to do anything different to counter that plan and make sure the LBW is out of the question. Right? And he's the
100%
most
true.
and he's the most experienced player in the team. If there was anyone to set that example, that okay, and that I can tell exactly what this plan is, and I'm gonna find a way to get around it.
And also, it's not the first time that this happens to him. Other bowlers do it to him too. They know that that's the weakness.
Exactly. And this is, and look, I don't want to be harsh to Ryan Rickleton here, but when Ryan Rickleton came on to bat, it was the exact same plan, because Stuart Broad was brought back in, and it was that same sort of angle that caught Ryan Rickleton as well. And so the main objective here is
that is kind of his specialty, the way Broad. He does that to a lot of left-handers.
Exactly. So that's something that your off the field training should prepare you for. And assuming it hasn't, it's you look at the angle that he's trying to bowl at, and the fact that he's bowling outside the off stump. He typically gets David Warner nicked in the slips. Okay. But that's a David Warner weakness. Otherwise, he's always trying to get that outswinger, right? Like that's his new skill now, bowling that leg cutter that goes away from the right hander and into the left hander. But the point here is that one batter has to learn from the dismissal of another batter.
Mm. That's my problem. Aditya, I've been saying it for
And
how long? Like how many times in this series did we get knocked out bowled, clean bowled with that angling in delivery? Exactly the
exactly,
same delivery from different bowlers.
And
exactly. And that
Khalid, and
is
Khalid, I was saying to you this morning that if you look at the dismissals of Aiden Markram, 2019 tour of India, it's the exact same dismissals that he was experiencing during this England tour. So it's puzzling. It's puzzling. It's as if the guys
And in
don't have
and
the
against
advantage
India,
of
yeah,
doing post-mortem. Yeah.
yeah,
You can
and
talk now.
against India, yeah, we saw Aiden messing around with his stance, batting outside off, standing outside off, standing middle, standing on leg. He was moving around constantly. He didn't know where to stand because they just knew let the ball move a little bit and we're gonna get the edge. And that's the problem with all of our batters at the moment. And that's leads into our next topic actually, which is that what's next for our batters because all of our batters are struggling to play. We first had an issue against spin. Ungama, you covered us during that period where we were trying to find ourselves against spin. Then we got to the speed, and Aditya was watching the games live when we were struggling against spin too. So we got over that, and then we knew that the swing deliveries was giving us a lot of issues. We saw it happening already against Pakistan, against Sri Lanka, against Bangladesh, against England, the first time and second time now. We've consistently struggled against that swing deliveries. New balls specifically, starting with the opening partnership. So we need to find ways on how we're going to fix things. We don't learn from the opposition. Like Aditya
I,
said, what Aditya said was spot on. We don't learn from the mistakes that happened before. Like for example, I gave an example with James Anderson when again in at Manchester. He noticed that the ball's not swinging, the ball's nipping off. He spoke to these players and said, "Look, you guys, we need to change the way we play here. When we go out to bat, the first person loses his wicket in an X way. Then the second person comes out and does exactly the same thing as the previous person did, and so forth and so forth. And it's a domino. It's a domino effect from there on out. We do not learn from the person ahead of us, and that has to be a communication issue within the dressing room.
and you know what else I think about that, Khalid? I think it also boils down to an identification thing, an identity thing. As a betting group, what are we trying to do? What is our betting identity? What is our approach? Because what I'm seeing is just guys who are confused as to how are we going to go about this thing, as a betting unit. So whoever's going to get be in charge of this, they have to come up with an identity that's ours. you know so what are these guys planning to do when they go into bed? Because this whole thing of grinding it out, it stems from low confidence. For me, since Boucher took over, I couldn't identify as to what are these batters trying to do. What is their approach? Kind of like what McCallum has done right now. They have an approach. They have their own system, and they use it no matter who the opposition is. But with us, it's very hard to identify as to what are we trying to do as a batting group.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and yeah, it's quite puzzling because for me personally, when like I heard what Dean Alger said in his press conference, it's on the channel as well, guys, if you want to watch it. But he was speaking about how important domestic experience is going to be now. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, but it's not only about domestic experience because there are some youngsters that are outperforming the experienced domestic cricketers and in our condition and look a lot more comfortable. The eye test is very important too. What's the point of having an experienced player with a nervous disposition standing and facing a new ball, for example? I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that's just anybody specifically, but I'm saying generally speaking, how can you put that? How can you do that? Like you need to also think about the person's mentality, personality, and the circumstances that he scored his runs in. I gave an example on a previous show. I said South Africa has a new ball problem at the moment. Placing the new ball is a problem in all formats at the moment. We always seem to be 2 down, 3 down within no time. And we obviously struggling to play against the ball, the new ball, when it's nipping around and moving around. We have a couple of bowlers in South African domestic cricket that are quite accurate with a new ball in the domestic scene. We've got the likes of Lutus Apamla, but he maybe doesn't bowl as quickly. But you've got Glenton Steerman who does it. You've got Björn Hendricks that does it pretty well as well. He bowls the new ball when there's no cameras on him and there's no pressure on him and he's bowling in 4-day cricket and he has time. He tends to be able to move the ball at will. And he does, in domestic cricket, he does it extremely well. So I suggested, why don't you look at the stats in those matches that Björn Hendricks played, Glenton Steerman played, etc., and go look at the batters that have been able to survive their first spells. Go look at that and see which batters they are. Then go next and look at their average, and then go next and look at their conversion rate and see how they're doing at which grounds. It's also very important to note that, because it's pointless if you pick in an opening batter that only scores runs on a flat track in Bloom. Then what is the point? Because when he's going to come to the over with a duke ball and the ball's moving around, he's not going to know what hit him. So I want him to go a little bit more in depth with regards to the attributes that they tick off for a player and sort it out by like that. For example, if you look at conversion rates, Turners de Bruin has been quite a consistent batter with regards to his conversion rates in domestic cricket. Could have been a very good option for South Africa in the future. But the time he came onto the scene, he was quite young. It would have been a nice opportunity to invest in him, not sack him if he doesn't do well. Give him an opportunity, give him an extension run, get him the right coaching. Because that's why you have, and I hate this comment, I hate this understanding that, oh, but by the time you play test cricket, you already should know how to play cricket. I don't like that. Why do you need a coach? No, bull. You do need a coach, because you need that coach to be able to take you from here to there. Otherwise, why appoint coaches in the first place? It's a stupid mentality to have, I feel, personally, in my opinion. I'm saying, because otherwise, then why get a coach if you're not going to learn anything from that coach? And so for me personally, I think that we need to make sure that the next person that we appoint can make our players better. There's still room for Dean Alger to be able to be better. Before, Dean Alger could just guts it out, survive, the pitch gets flat, he dominates. It's not happening like that anymore. Particularly in England, that wasn't happening. The pitch wasn't flattening out as much. So it gave us a problem. Pardon. So what I need from South Africa for the next coach is to make sure that they put in someone that can actually also coach these guys, get the best out of these guys, give them the right coaching in the nets, making sure that you have a batting coach with a caliber that will be able to tweak techniques, not change their techniques. We're not asking you to show them how to play a pull shot and show them how to drive. We're asking them to tweak certain aspects of the game to combat certain struggles within test cricket. For me, this is not T20 cricket where you can just be a coach, put a team out in the middle, tell them how you want them to play, and let them do it. There are certain specifics that change the way the opposition responds to you in test cricket. It's about consistency over time. You might be able to stand on off stump, and maybe it takes away a scoring option, a wicket option. I like that Neil McKenzie spoke about that. It's very basic. For example, if you're batting in the middle, try to take out one of the wicket options to give yourself more of a chance of survival. Take out the LBW option, or maybe take out the outside nick option. But that's how you have to think. Give yourself the best possible chance of scoring runs. And that's what we need to be able to do. And I want to be able to see those small little minor adjustments made to players so that they become better and improve. Final thoughts from you, Aditya, before we say goodbye to the people. I know this was mainly about the about Boucher, but a tiding kind of. I think we need to speak about the future of batters too.
One thing that we need to sort of think about is that when we talk about coaches, right, and a coaching staff, and the attributes of a coaching staff, right, and whether they're getting the best out of the players that they've got, we also need to examine the domestic coaching environment, because by all accounts, we've talked a lot about domestic cricket and the fact that you know coaches like Mandla, Richard Das Nevis, Jeffrey Toyana, Enoch, Robbie P, Alden Donald. These are some heavyweights in the South African domestic circuit, and by all accounts, they've been great coaches. But for whatever reason, that's not translating onto the international scene. And I'm not suggesting that that has anything to do with the coaching at domestic level at all. But it is something to think about because, as Herschelle Gibbs was talking about Sarah Lerbe, that, he scored, I think, 10 domestic hundreds thus far, which means that, the likelihood of him really getting hundreds consistently at international level
In
is,
100 matches, bro.
yeah, exactly, in 100 matches. So, like, that's the thing, right? In like Ravi Shastri, for example, he always says that, at the international level, we're generally talking about fine tuning a player. Like you said, you don't talk about teaching a player how to drive, or you don't teach a player how to play the pull shot. Perhaps you might teach him when to play it or when not to play
Mm.
it. But at that level, at the international level, it's about fine tuning someone's technique, or it's about ensuring that their mental game is where it
Yeah.
needs to be. But there has to be there has to be some sort of there has to be some sort of an analysis of what's going on at domestic level, because
Mm.
if your most experienced player, your captain, is not able to disrupt an opposition bowler's plan that is quite obvious for everyone to see, then I think that's a bit of a concern. And if a younger player then comes in and the batter at the opposite end is not communicating that plan to him, I think that's also another concern for me. So did that make sense there? Because I was basically referring to
Of course you do.
Dean's dismissal, and then I think who was batting with him at the other end? Was it Keegan? Um, because
When he
that's
lost his
when,
wicket.
yeah. So I think Keegan was at the other end, and then Ryan came in. So that's because you always see, like, I was watching the Asia Cup right now, and like literally every other ball, guys, like, Virat Kohli and Rizwan and all, they're constantly talking about which way the ball is turning and swinging and things like that. These are basic messages, right? Because you're helping your partner get better at what they're doing in the middle. But it's like I don't have a problem with the result. I don't have a problem with the fact that South Africa lost. I have a problem with how they lost.
Mm.
Because we call it
Like
sure.
I said, like Alga's
Yeah,
style of cricket is it's not conducive for an entire team style of cricket. Not everybody can
yeah,
play like that. Like how can you base your whole game plan on one player's style of cricket?
and it's not even that, right? Like, think about it. If you really do an in-depth sort of analysis of this game, obviously it's not ideal. Like the off-field sentiment of the Queen's passing, and the rain will play on the players' mind, and you do have an abridged test match. So you mentally, I think it is a bit of a challenge. But as an international team, sometimes you do have to adapt, right? Because you feel it's a lot of us, perhaps in the media as well, we're talking about the fact that our South Africa are going to have to, really go out and play attacking cricket because you've only got 3 days. But remember, it's a test match of 270 overs. That's a lot of cricket. 270 overs is that's basically almost sort of what, three ODI games, you know? So that's still a lot of cricket. So it doesn't mean that you have to come out and start blasting the opposition straight away. That you don't necessarily have to do that,
Yeah.
and that's where I feel like mentally that's where South Africa lost it, because
Yeah.
we can talk about experience and selection
Yeah,
and
and
even
I don't
plans,
like this whole. Yeah, I don't like this whole. Oh no, the experience in domestic level, and they scored a couple of hundreds in domestic level that you could pick. It's not only about the fact that if they have 39 50s and 10 hundreds, I mean, they're not. It's clear to see that they're not converting in domestic cricket when the ball's not nipping around as much inconsistently, when the ball's not swinging around as much, they're not even converting. So how the hell are they going to convert when it is doing that? That's my problem. Because then you can't. Because sometimes in test level you might need to put the brakes on some players that are maybe used to playing a more free-flowing game at domestic cricket, but maybe a good coach like us, for example, I'm just throwing Ashwell in the mix there, but I'm saying, for example, an Ashwell Prince will be able to tell you a little nugget like, spend 3 hours over there. Focus on how much time you're spending on the crease rather than the amount of runs you have on the board. That's a small little mentality shift. You're not thinking, because when you're batting, normally a batter's instinct is to look at the board, scoreboard. How much do I have? How much do I have? Don't look at that. Rather look at the time and say, how long have I been at the crease? That might be a little bit of a small mental shift that a batting coach or a person that has played international cricket as a batter at the highest level will be able to give insight into the weakest part of our team, which is currently our batting department. So we need to either get a coach that has a batting experience, or we need to get a batting coach into the mix that can teach our players how to cope with the pressures of test cricket. Because if you sort out the test arena, I think the other formats are a lot easier to sort out, I feel, and work out, because then you're at least finding a pipeline of technically gifted players coming through. And that can kind of set you the minority core for the rest of your teams, and it will filter down.
But the thing is, Khalid, the idea that you have to teach an international player to do something a certain way is I don't know. I feel like it's sort of undermining what they really should be doing, right? At domestic level. I'll give you an example. Just from yesterday, day before yesterday. In an third ODI game between Australia and New Zealand. I think Australia just made about 240, 250 perhaps. And it was par for the course there, because it wasn't the 350, 400 sort of wicket anyway. Stephen Smith made 105 of 131 balls. Now, ordinarily, that would be a test match knock. That's what Stephen Smith would do when he's in full flow in a test match. But that was the right thing for him to do in that ODI game at that point, because that's what the pitch demanded. That's what the conditions demanded. He wasn't hurried by the fact that he's playing a 50-over game, and the narrative now is baseball, and you just have to score 500 runs in 50 overs. At that moment, and that was a match-winning innings, because I think apart from Marnus Labuschagne, who scored 52 of some 70-odd balls, no one really crossed even 20. So that tells you a story, right? The fact that he's worked out what's going to be effective on this pitch, what score is going to be effective on this pitch, and ultimately Australia won. The other thing I'll tell you is that last year, when in the 2020-21 season, when India beat Australia at home, Ravichandran Ashwin, okay, I know it's Labuschagne, Lawrence.
Yeah, Labuschagne.
It is
Come here with your
Labuschagne.
Labuschagne.
No, sorry, I've been watching too much commentary, man. No, sorry, Lawrence. It is Labuschagne. That's what I say normally also. I don't know why I got caught with Labuschagne. Anyway, Ravichandran Ashwin, prior to that test series between India and Australia in 2020-21, he watched close to 500 hours of footage of Australian batters. Okay, this was his individual pursuit. It's not like he didn't have to do that. The team management didn't ask him to do that. He chose to do it. And he found different ways of getting Stephen Smith out. Stephen Smith did not fire in that series, I think, except for one game. But he wasn't the Stephen Smith that scores 700 odd runs in a series. That's phenomenal. And it's not like he was asking the bowling coach that, listen, what do I do to get Stephen Smith out? Instead, he was telling the bowling coach that this is what I'm going to do. What do you think? And to me, that's what I find missing in the in the South African system, because
Mm.
I think there's so much of an over reliance on the fact on coaches to sort of teach players, right? And I don't think they should need it, or should they need it, they should probably, sort of take that
Yeah.
initiative and ask them themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, because the problems with regards to our batting department, it can't necessarily be that they just don't know how to play or they don't not good batters. Because I mean, you can't score centuries if you're not. If you can't score a century in any test game if you're not a good batter. I mean, it's very difficult to do something like that if you're not good enough to play the game. So it's about applying the right strategies and mentality and understanding your game and adapting it to the conditions and circumstances that is in front of you. And the only way you get that is if you play test cricket. And I do feel otherwise you have to have people around you that have played. And we have now opportunity for these players to play an extensive run. But I want to see them give guys 2 years or so. And but have a proper plan with the right players that you feel they have the right mentality and the right ability to do so. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to smash the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell for all future videos. Also, download the latest issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine monthly. Every issue is 100% free, straight to your inbox every month. The link is in the description. Also, become a part of the Patreon account. A link is in the description if you want to help us grow and promote South African cricket. Thanks a lot to everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow with another daily show. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you have an amazing week, an amazing evening. Peace out.